Good morning everyone and welcome to our Valentine's Day worship. We hope you enjoy worshipping with us this Sunday. Whether you're a regular or somebody who's found us on could have found us on Wikipedia, or whether you found us on YouTube, we warmly invite you to come and join us in our singing, our praying, our listening to God's word and our learning from God's word. We're going to begin with a traditional hymn. Love divine or love's excelling, joy of heaven to earth come down.
Love divine or love's excelling, joy of heaven to earth come down. Fix in us thy onward way,
Let's pray together. Oh Lord, we come together on Valentine's Day because Valentine's Day has come on Sunday, your day, the day we set aside to worship you as our God and our King. Help us today as we focus on not just the legend of Saint Valentine, but his focus of love, that we would hear your voice, your words, your spirit moving us to a deeper love with you, a deeper love with each other, and even a deeper love with strangers and our enemy. For your love is the greatest love that humanity has ever known, and we want to learn more of that today. Come have your way within us. Come have your way amongst us. Be glorified, we ask, our God and our King. Amen. So, welcome to Valentine's Day. No, Saint Valentine's Day. No matter what Interflora or Nestle or any of the card companies say, today is Saint Valentine's Day. And we remember the 14th of February every year by buying flowers and by buying chocolate and by buying this and that. the story of Saint Valentine, who gave his life to ensure that people who were in love could continue to love each other. Now, as always, have a short video for the children, which I hope the adults enjoy as well.
Saint Valentine was a bishop who lived in the 3rd century in Rome. During his lifetime, the Roman Empire was crumbling down from the attacks of surrounding tribes. Emperor Claudius II, who ruled during the chaos, believed that marriage made soldiers weak. He issued an edict that forbade marriage to ensure the quality of his soldiers. The ban on marriage was a great shock. The kind bishop noticed the injustice of the decree. He held the law of the church and helped lovers who came to him, uniting them in a holy matrimony. But it was only a matter of time before the emperor heard about this friend of lovers and had him arrested. Valentine was imprisoned. While waiting for his sentence, his jailer Asterius approached him to use his saintly power and heal his blind daughter. Valentine succeeded, and her sight was restored. They became close and fell in love. After a while, the emperor issued a verdict. Valentine was asked to agree with the emperor about the ban on marriage, thus giving up his religion. Valentine refused. Just before his execution, Valentine asked for a pen and paper and signed a farewell message to his lover. From your Valentine, a phrase that lived ever after.
So, the legend of Saint Valentine. There exists many theories about the origin of Saint Valentine and about how this Roman martyr becomes the patron saint of lovers. These theories were based on many legends that certainly were based in facts lost in time. We don't know the full story. We don't know every element of the legend. All we know is that from very early on, Saint Valentine has been remembered as the man who would care for young lovers. And so therefore, over time, he became the patron saint of love and lovers. But I think they're missing the point. If the legend of St. Valentine is correct, then actually what he was supporting was marriage. What he actually was arrested and ultimately executed for was his support of Christian marriage, ensuring that a couple can come together and be together for the rest of their lives. Now, marriage isn't easy. Love isn't easy. And no matter how much we love someone, sometimes marriages don't work. I'm afraid that's the result of living in a broken, fallen, damaged world. And people do get broken. And they do get damaged. And sometimes they fall even further when their marriages begin to disintegrate. But there are things that we can do to help each other and our partners as we get engaged, as we get married, and as we choose to stay together. Now, I say this because in 2014, the Pew Research Centre did some research into marriage in America. So this isn't England, this is America, but some very interesting results. Overall, 47 people said it's very important to them that a couple legally marries if they plan to spend the rest of their lives together. Okay, it's not 50%, but 47% is actually quite high. Women think that's more important than men, 50% to 44%. And there are differences within race, but there are huge differences within age. 65 and older, I think that 65% believe it's very important the couple legally marries. But 18 to 29, that drops to only 36%. We are living in generations that don't believe in marriage, or more accurately, don't believe in lifelong marriage. And there are generations, such as my son's generations, that are living with the notion of a starter marriage, a rather crass idea that came across from America. Marriage is tough. Proclaiming marriage is getting harder. Underlying the importance and significance of marriage, harder yet again. But we as Christians acknowledge what God says in his word, that marriage is a good thing for one man and one woman. More than half of married people say shared housework is key to a successful marriage. Okay, so there's not a lot I can say about having shared interests. You either do or you don't. There's not a lot I want to say on tape about having satisfying sexual relationships. I'm sure you're all relieved. But actually, this is a very basic admonition. Brothers and sisters, share your household chores. Wash up for each other. Wash clothes for each other. Hoover for each other. Don't do it because you have to, but do it because you want to give your partner a love gift. Came across this quote, which I thought was very interesting. Marriage is not a noun, it is a verb. It is not a name or a title, it is a doing word. It isn't something you get, it is something you do. To be married is something that requires work. It's the way you love your partner every day. And you share a house together, a home together, a life together. Doing some of the chores is perhaps the easiest thing you can do. Because let's face it, a bunch of flowers, a card and a box of chocolate once a year really isn't enough for both parties. Marriage is sanctified, stabilised, energised and protected by God. These are things that God wants us to do. He wants our lives to be sanctified. He wants our lives to be stabilised. Sometimes we need another person to help us get along. He wants it to be energised. We don't have the energy to do it all by ourselves. We need others. And I think we need, as Christians and as a church, to say that marriage is so important that we want to protect it. That we actually want people to turn around and realise that if you're going to get married in a church, it is a commitment for life and not for convenience. Moving back to Saint Valentine's Day. Did you know Saint Valentine's Day is the patron saint of epilepsy? He's also the patron saint of bees. And I thought this next one was really fitting. For 2021, he's the patron saint of plagues. Now clearly, St. Vincent has got, St. Valentine's has got a lot to do. But we can help. We can't do anything about bees. We can't do anything about plagues other than pray. And I certainly can't do a great deal about epilepsy. But actually what we can do is support each other in marriage, whether you're newly married, and I'm a great pleasure to tell you that Ross managed to get married during lockdown. Whether you have been married, whether you're married with young children or no children, whether you're married with adult children who have fled the nest, or whether you're married in retirement, we can pray, support and encourage each other through all the good times and the bad. So husbands, I hope you have bought your wives a bunch of flowers. Wives, thank you for everything you do for your husbands, and I hope you've done something nice for them. We can mutually accept, encourage and support each other in our commitment this Valentine's Day. And our closing prayers are all to do with the love of God as expressed in the life of family. We're going to move on. The next song is called The Love of God.
Greater far than tongue or pen. praise to the lowest hell. The guilty pair bowed down with care. God gave his son to win his erring child. He reconciled and pardoned from his sin. The years of time shall pass away, and earthly thrones and kingdoms fall, when men who hear refuse to pray on rocks and hills and mountains fall. God's love so sure shall still endure, all measureless and strong, redeeming grace to Adam's praise, the saints and angels song. Could we with ink the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above would drain the ocean dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. Oh, love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure. The saints and angels song, the saints and angels song, the saints and angels song.
Why do I focus on Valentine's Day today? Because it gives me an excuse, not just to talk about Christian marriage, which I think is important and essential, but actually to talk about the underlying principle that God is love. Love is one of these things that is built into our physical and spiritual DNA, that without it we wither and die like crops. We need to be loved, no matter how old or how young we are, whether we want to receive it or not. Love is the thing that waters our souls, that waters our hearts, our emotions, our minds, our intellect, our physical strength, and the spirit within. We need to understand that when God looks at us, no matter what our circumstances are, single, married, divorcee, doesn't matter, God loves us. Through the cross, he is enabled to look beyond judgment to the person within and to love that person. And it's from that starting point I want to take us to 1 Corinthians 13. Now you may remember that 1 Corinthians 12 ends with, and now I will show you the most excellent way. What you may not be aware of, and if you've ever been to a wedding at Central since I've been here, you will be aware of this, and I apologise for repeating myself, it's worth repeating, that chapter 12 of 1 Corinthians and chapter 14 of 1 Corinthians are all about spiritual gifts. And in particular, the conflict, the tension between the churches in Corinth as they experience, as they use, and as they proclaim spiritual gifts. And Paul says, I now want to show you the most excellent way, the best way of dealing with conflict, the best way of dealing with spiritual gifts, the best way of dealing with anything. Because in this incredible study of love, we find an explanation, an exploration of who God is. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonour others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see in reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Let's pray together. Lord, as we look at your word, come speak to our heart, speak to our mind, our soul, and our strength. With all that we are, we worship you, O God, and we ask, water our souls with your love. Water our lives and our marriages and our families with your love. And through these words, may we get a bigger, better, deeper understanding of the people you want us to be. Amen. So, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. In pagan worship, resounding gongs and clanging cymbals are important, but not in Christian worship. Because if I speak in tongues but do not have love, I'm no better than a pagan. Because God is love. So therefore, as we worship him, we minister in spirit and truth and love. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge and have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. You can have all the best gifts in the world. And later on, Paul very sarcastically writes about how gifted the Corinthians are. But we need to always put love first. Not convenience, not finance, not opportunity, but first and foremost, every time, love. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. If I sacrifice every aspect of myself, the external, the internal, and the physical, rub myself out by throwing myself on a funeral pyre, or break myself down in frenetic activity. But if I do not have love, I gain nothing. At the end of life, what really matters is not what we brought, but what we built. Not what we got, but what we shared. Not our competence, but our character, and not our success, but our significance. Live a life that matters. Live a life of love. You can give your possessions to the poor. You can burn yourself out by giving your body over to hardship. You can sacrifice your life in martyrdom. But actually, if you have love, then you won't have made a difference. You may have made a noise. You may have made a spectacle, perhaps of yourself rather than Christ. But actually, when we give ourselves away out of love, not out of something for ourselves, not out of something for others, because let's face it, we're surrounded by a world full of expectations. The only expectation our loving God has is that we share the love that he pours into our lives. The only expectation that Christ has is that because we have been bought back and our sin completely quenched, quashed, disposed of, that we share that love, that freedom of his love with others. Live a life that matters. Live a life of love. We do need to always review our motives, because none of us are perfect, and sometimes, probably most of the time, that the easiest person to lie to is ourselves. Why are we doing this? Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. Now, there are 14 comments here in this section. There are positive comments. Patience, kindness, rejoicing with the truth, protecting, trusting, hoping, and persevering. But there are also 7 warnings, because we are human. We're not always perfect. No matter who you are, you're not perfect all the time. And even if you're only perfect 99% of the time, there's still that 1% of the time when you are going to hurt your loved one. Be it your marriage partner, be it your children, be it members of your extended family, or dare I even say your church family. A careless word, a forgotten date, something done, said, thought in passing. So we need to be warned. We're warned not to envy, not to boast, to not be proud, not to dishonour others, not self-seeking, not easily angered, keeping no record of wrongs, being able to forgive. I'm kind of struggling with this personally at the moment. Something's come up in the life of the church and I feel dishonoured. And I don't mean Central Baptist Church, I mean the wider church. And I feel dishonoured. And I'm trying really hard not to keep a record of wrongs. It isn't easy. But it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to be easy because love comes at a cost. Look at the cross. Christ's unbelievable, unending, undying love comes about through sacrifice. And he told us that we must take up our cross and follow him. And if we imagine the cross not as a symbol of torture, which it is, not a symbol of wrongdoing, like we have at the bottom of maths books if we get things wrong, but if we think of it as a symbol of love, as what you do at the end of a letter, piece of personal correspondence. If we can pick up that cross and love with all that we've received and all that we are, we will make such an impact on this world. We will make such an impact on the lives of the people we care for. Because everyone needs love. And sometimes all they can do is take it. And that's hard. But there will be a moment, there will be days when they want to give it as well. So I put the checklist down there because I don't want you to think of these 14 admonitions as checklists. Am I loving? Am I kind? No. Yes, you could, I guess. But what you're going to end up doing is beating yourself about what you've not done. I'd like to give you another suggestion. I'd like you to thinking about giving and taking. Now, there is this great analogy that they use in counselling about feeding into a reservoir. And then when you need it, you undo that reservoir, and the reservoir of good things that you've built up in yourself and in others comes flowing out. So when you are in a caring, loving relationship with your next door neighbour, with your significant other, with a complete stranger even, think about what you're giving. Are you being patient? Are you being kind? Think about how you might be taking out of that reservoir. That actually when you are envious, when you are dishonouring, when you are reminding people of wrongs, that you're actually emptying that reservoir of love, of goodwill, of kindness. Now, whether you use the image of water, or a pail full of stones, or a Lego building set and you're building something up, this whole idea of give and take, I think, is exemplified in these verses. There are good things to do, and we need to be aware there are damaging things that take away. Don't think it was a checklist. Think of something far more dynamic, perhaps even more important than that. A way of you thinking, how much does this person know that I love them? Have I filled their reservoir recently? And this is where it starts getting really tough. If that wasn't tough, for me, this next section is where it gets really, really tough. Love never fails. I failed Leslie. I failed Jonathan. I failed Luke. And I failed Benjamin. I failed my friends and I failed my family. I failed the people of this church because I'm not always loving. I'm not always happy enough. I'm not always kind enough. I'm not always had a decent night's sleep enough. I've always got a reason. But the agape, sacrificial love of God never fails. And that's what we delight in. That's what we celebrate. Marriage is supposed to be a reflection of that. It's not always possible. It's not always easy. But we try to never fail. And we are going to fail. But isn't that what the cross is all about? That the cross takes away all our failures, all our wrongdoings. And God enables us, renews us, refreshes us, helps us to carry on loving. And we're back to the spiritual gifts. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. Now, theologians, commentators, have been arguing over what completeness is for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Shall I tell you what I think completeness is? When we are fully reconciled to God. When we are fully known. When there is nothing separating us anymore. When we are in his presence. when we are one through being the bride of Christ to the groom who loves us. We're called to maturity. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man or a grown-up, I put the ways of childhood behind me. Corinthians, shut up. Grow up. Change and become more like Jesus. Maturity doesn't mean age. I've known lots of immature elderly people, spiritually and emotionally. It means sensitivity, ability to love someone and receive love from someone. Manners, to be kind, considerate, and how you react. One of the ways which I failed my children is the way that when I am unbelievably stressed out, angry or annoyed, I shout very loudly. I'm not proud of it. I'm not boasting about it. This is not the person I want to be. And over the years, I think I have quieted down significantly. But those early days as a young parent, I choose now to bite my lip and keep my mouth shut, to go for a walk, to calm down, and then come back to a situation. I choose to react in a mature way, not an immature way. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. The glory is yet to come. We have as yet to be received into the perfection that is paradise, that is the garden of the King, that is his very presence in the centre of his throne room. And we'll see Christ, the Father, and the Spirit face to face. He'll be there in the midst of the throne, and we'll be with millions and billions of others, praising, worshipping, exalting our God. And he'll call us by name and tell us how much he loves us and how glad he is to see us. Now I know in part. Corinthians, you know about spiritual gifts. Central Baptist Church, you know about spiritual gifts. Baptist community, Anglican community, Pentecost community. You know about these things, but you're not fully known and you don't know everything yet. We're just looking in a mirror dimly. There is so much more to enjoy ahead. Why? Because our God is love. No matter what someone says about this event or that event, in both the world and in the Bible, God is love. No matter how someone experienced pain or suffering in the church or outside the church, God is still love. No matter how difficult my circumstances, your circumstances, our circumstances, God is love. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. I like the AV version. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and charity. Love is not just some lukewarm idea of Valentine's cards, flowers, and chocolates. That's not deep enough. That's not dynamic or powerful enough. Love is that, but so much, much more. This is why a lifetime commitment to someone, till death us do part, is so powerful. Because when people stand up and say that in front of their friends and their family, in that moment they are declaring against a fallen, broken world that I will do the thing that God wants, and I will commit myself to this person and receive from God and that person the love that they want to give me. We are a people of faith. We have hope to get through not just COVID-19, but for the rest of our lives. And yet that's not enough. The love of God, receiving it and giving it away, is what is essential, because the greatest of these is love. No yes but hows, because I can't. Paul's conclusion can't be undone or redefined. It's so simple and yet so demanding. And yet from here he goes not loving each other. So let's learn from the Corinthians experience. Let's learn from Paul's incredibly powerful and prophetic statement. The greatest of these is love. And let's make a commitment, you and me, to be as loving as we can be. To receive love from God, from each other, and give that love away to others, friends, strangers, and if I remember Jesus teaching correctly, that very radical calling to even love our enemies. Thank you for listening. Let's pray together. O Lord, our Lord, we thank you that you love us. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you sent your Son because you love us. Holy Spirit, we thank you that you live within us to prepare us, to renew us, to help us, because you love us. And we give ourselves to you out of love. We sing our songs, we offer our prayers, we read our Bibles, we do out of love. And Lord, help us always be mindful of our motives. Help us mindful of our relationships. And help us be mindful that above and beyond all things, you want us to shine in this world in love. May all of our friends, all of our families, even all of our neighbours know that we are a loving people, a generous people, a kind people, a resilient and open people who give of themselves because they recognise how much you gave of yourself. Holy Spirit, come have your way amongst us. Renew us, inspire us, and lead us forward, we pray. Amen. Our final song is the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness.
The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning, new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness, O Lord. Great is thy faithfulness. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end.
closing prayers. We are going to be using material that was put together for National Marriage Week 2020. There is going to be one in 2021. I found that out this week after I prepared the service. I've taken a prayer and a blessing that they've used in that week, and we're going to be using it in our closing prayers. We are going to be praying not just for married couples, but for everyone. So, I'm going to lead in prayer. There'll be times of silence, and that way you can pray for the people in that section that are on your heart and on your mind. Let's pray together. God of love, thank you for all the marriages in our church, for shared laughter and tears, for shared strength in their weaknesses, and the love to get through life each day. Thank you for the gifts they give to each other, and bless them as they grow together in love, and guide them through all that life brings them through the years. God of love, thank you for the single people in our church, for the love and kindnesses they share with us and the opportunities we have to share our love and kindnesses with them. Thank you for all they do to enrich our lives, and bless them in their love of their families. Please guide them through all good things and the difficult things that lay ahead of them. God of love, thank you for all the parents in our church, for their laughter and tears, for their moments of success and difficulties, and the love that gets them through each day. Thank you for the love that they share, and bless them as they grow together in love, and guide them through all that life will bring them through the years. God of love, thank you for all the children in our church, for all their laughter and tears, for their moments of joy and sadness, and the love that they show us every day. Thank you for the love that we all share, and bless them as they grow up in your love. Please guide them through all the challenges that life will bring, and remind them just how much you love them. Almighty God, please hear our prayers of love for each other, no matter what kind of family we're in, no matter how old or how young we are. We are called to be a people of love, and we want to share that love one with each other. May we, your bride, receive your love and show your love to our broken world. Amen. And a final blessing for those of you that are married. May you need one another, but not out of weakness. May you want one another, but not out of lack. May you entice one another, but not compel one another. May you embrace one another, but not encircle one another. May you succeed in all important ways with one another and not fail in the little graces. May you look for things to praise, often say I love you, and take no notice of small faults. If you have quarrels that push you apart, may both of you hope to have good sense enough to take the first step back. May you have happiness, and may you find it making one another happy. May you have love, and may you find it in loving one another. And all God's people said, Amen. We're going to end with, again, one of my favourite songs, The Love of God by Rich Mullins. Rich Mullins is one of the first ever Christian albums I bought, and his music stayed with me for many years until his death about 15 years ago. Still listen to his albums, and I want to share with you a very short song, and it is a worship song about the love of God that keeps me inspired and keeps me wanting to keep on loving.
There's a wideness in God's mercy I cannot find in my own, and it keeps His fire burning to melt this heart of stone. Keeps me aching with the yearning, keeps me glad to have been caught in the reckless raging fury that they call the love of God. I've seen no band of angels, but I've heard the soldiers' songs. Love hangs over them like a banner. Love within them leads them on to the battle, on the journey, and it's never gonna stop, ever widening their mercies and the fury of His love. Love of God, oh, the love of God, the love of God. Joy and sorrow are this ocean, in their every ebb and flow. Now the Lord, the door has opened that all hell could never close. Here I'm tested and made worthy, tossed about but lifted up, and the reckless raging fury that they call the love of God.
And we finish by blessing each other with the grace. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God our Father and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Just a few notices. Do let us know which charities you would like to support in 2021. We've had 2 suggestions so far, Water Aid and Care for the Family. We're not going to give money just yet, so you do have time, but do please let us know which charities you would like us to support in 2021. Please continue to pray for Susan in her work with Friends International. She's had a week off, and I got a note from her this morning, a text from her this morning, that said she's managed to have time off. So thank you for praying for that, and pray that she comes back refreshed. Please continue to pray for kings and all those in authority. You may not know the Prime Minister, you may not know who the various members of his government are, but you can show your love for God and your love for them by praying for them, praying that they have wisdom and that they listen to the Spirit of God at work within them. Please continue to pray for Annie and Dan Dupree, our link missionaries with BMS World Mission. And please remember the call to prayer at 6 o'clock every evening just to spend a few moments praying to God for the recovery of our nation. One thing we can all do is pray. We hope it is some consolation to know that the church prays for the life of our nation every day. Whether you're someone of faith or not, we invite you to call on God in prayer. Starting on the 1st of February, we invite you to set aside time each and every evening to pray, particularly at 6 p.m. More than ever, this is the time when we need to love each other. Prayer is a fantastic expression of that love. Lent is almost upon us. Shrove Tuesday is happening this Tuesday on the 16th. Don't eat too much. And Lent begins on Wednesday the 17th. Now, I know that we normally give you Lenten jars. Can't do that this year. But I can give you, well, you can do it yourself. You can get a mug out and you can be putting your coins from your Lenten sacrifices in. I've made the commitment to give up chocolate biscuits. Didn't really want to, but I'm going to. And I'm going to put the money that I don't spend on chocolate biscuits in a jug. In a cup, in a mug. If you would like a Lenten book, I can send you one. If you would like some Lent material sent to your email box, there are lots of really good charities out there. Tear Fund, I know, are doing something, as are 40 days of prayer. Please consider signing up. But if you need anything for Lent, don't hesitate to get in contact with me. Telephone, email, snail mail, doesn't matter. I will respond as soon as I can. Fair Trade Fortnight begins on Monday the 22nd of February. Can I encourage you that during this Fair Trade Fortnight to spend some time purchasing fair trade goods and perhaps giving them away? Tell people that at your church we're doing Fair Trade Fortnight and we're encouraging people to buy fair trade goods because people in the developing world still need to earn a living and are finding it as hard, if not harder, than people in this country trying to earn a living. Question, how are you going to celebrate this? You're going to pray, you're going to give, you're going to give away. Maybe suggestion, you might want to consider buying fair trade bananas. Yes, they're a little bit more expensive. Fair trade tea. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive. A visit to the fair trade shop on Thursdays, because they are open one day a week because they sell food. Whatever you do, please think about what you're going to do during Fair Trade Fortnight. The FAB course, Feelings Affect Behaviour course, is a course covering, is a course designed for people who have experienced domestic abuse. We may not be able to help your friend, but these people will be able to encourage and build them up so they can move on in their lives. It's being run by Southampton Family Trust, which is a great charity and has done fantastic work in the city for many years. Now, it begins on the 25th of February and goes on to the 1st of April. That's 6 weeks, almost like Lent. Prayer meeting, the long prayer meeting will be on Thursday the 26th of February at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. Do consider joining us. And the next citywide prayer event is Sunday the 28th of February. Beyond that, we're looking to March the 14th, which is Mothering Sunday. Dads, children, be aware, Mothering Sunday, March the 14th. Children, adult children I mean, get your mum's card in the post as soon as you can. And we're also getting to the point in time when we will be giving to food bank from the church. If you want to give something to Southampton City Missions Food Bank, Basics Bank, considering downloading the Food Bank app from either App Store or Google Play, and they will let you know, and through that they can let you know what their needs are. And just beyond that, to the end of March, which is also the beginning of Holy Week, is Saturday, March the 28th, when the clocks go forward. We are Thank you all for coming today. Our service is coming to an end. If you would like to join us on Zoom, I've particularly encouraged the children to join us because we sent them a whole range of Valentine's Day's activities that they want to show off. But we will also be having our communion, and we'll be doing it in the format of an Agape meal, which is slightly different format from how we normally do it. But I do hope you'll join us between 12 and 1 on Zoom. After this service has come to an end, there are a couple of additional videos. One is for the children, talking about, in more detail, the teenagers I should say, about Saint Valentine. And the other is for the adults. Now, I told you how much I love The Love of God by Rich Mullins. There's a fantastic YouTube video about a US corporal in the Second World War who refused to take up weapons because he was a believer, but became a medical orderly. And his life story is portrayed in a film called Hacksaw Ridge. And in that film, in his life, he gave up a night of his life going back to rescue men from the battlefield and praying, one more, Lord, one more, help me find one more. And no one realised he was still up there until the bodies started coming down a cliff face, because not only was he rescuing them from their wounds, he was rescuing them from the battlefield as well. He's the only conscientious objector during the Second World War to receive the US Military of Honor. It's a fantastic video. It's a great film. If you want to watch it, I hope you do. It's a way of showing that love isn't just this pink frilly thing. It is actually this hard-edged commitment to doing to others rather than just yourself. Goodbye, God bless. See you soon.
If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends.
For all its popularity, history doesn't give us any guarantees as to the origins of Valentine's Day. But we do know it contains vestiges of the early Christian church in ancient Rome. The association between mid-February and romance goes back to a pagan festival known as Lupercalia, likely honoring either Lupa, the she-wolf of Rome who suckled Romulus and Remus, or Faunus, their god of fertility. The festivities began with an animal sacrifice. Then the ritualistic slapping of young women with strips of the animal's skin and blood to bestow fertility for the coming year. In the 5th century, perhaps in an effort to Christianize the pagan festival, Pope Gelasius declared February 14th as Saint Valentine's Day. As for the real Saint Valentine, there were reportedly several canonized by the Church. Legend has it that one Saint Valentine, a defiant Roman priest, lived during the 3rd century AD under Emperor Claudius II. Claudius was an ambitious ruler. His battles required vast armies of men to abandon their young families for long periods of time, resulting in a military that was half-hearted and homesick. So determined was Claudius to stop love from sapping the will of his armies, he banned marriages altogether. Father Valentine thought the ban unjust and defied the emperor, continuing to marry young lovers in secret. The emperor eventually caught on to the priest's actions, arrested him, and sentenced him to death. It is believed that young couples he had secretly wed would visit his cell, passing him flowers and notes through the bars as symbols of their gratitude. The story continues that the condemned Father Valentine fell in love with his jailer's daughter. On February 14th, the day he was executed, it is said he passed the young girl a note. It was signed, "From your Valentine." A tradition was born. Cupid, the winged matchmaker, started out as the Roman god of love, inspired the image of cherubs for Christians, and is now a favorite of card makers and mass marketers. Our modern Valentine's Day, removed from its religious and pagan past, has evolved into one of the most celebrated holidays on the calendar. On average, Americans shower their loved ones with 180 million roses, red ones naturally, and almost 36 million heart-shaped boxes of candy, not to mention all those cards, dinners, and diamonds. All told, the holiday brings in almost $14 billion annually, giving retailers plenty to love as well. But if you're worried that you can't afford to treat your loved one properly next Valentine's Day, take heart. The poets were right. Love is really all you need.
Do you hear voices, Desmond?
No, sir.
But I understand that God talks to you, is that right?
Sir, I'm not a crazy person.
Is that how you feel most people regard you, a crazy person?
I'm different, I know that, but I'm not gonna pretend to be something I'm not. I am what I am.
It sounds lonely. You lonely?
There's a wideness in God's mercy I cannot find in my own, and it keeps His fire burning to melt this heart of stone. Keeps me aching with the yearning, keeps me glad to have been caught in the reckless raging fury that they call the love of God. I've seen no band of angels, but I've heard the soldiers' songs. Love hangs over them like a banner. Love within them leads them on to the battle, on the journey, and it's never gonna stop, ever widening their mercies and the fury of His love. Love of God, oh, the love of God. Joy and sorrow are this ocean, and in their every ebb and flow. Now the Lord a door has opened that all hell could never close. Here I'm tested and made worthy, tossed about but lifted up. And the reckless raging fury that they call the love of God